Hi guys, and welcome to another Fast Foundation Friday where I always exceed my self-imposed limit of 3 to 4 minutes. I was hoping to get back to corset reviews this week, but I had purchased a new lighting kit online and they forgot to ship the stand that comes with the lighting. So I have new lights, I have nothing to actually put them on, so I'm waiting for that to arrive. And I'm slowly trying to improve my video production quality as my budget allows. Another announcement, starting this coming Monday, my Kindle book Solace is going to be on sale for 3 days. On Monday, it's going to be nearly 50% off the original price. So check that out. People have been asking about the paperback version. That will be coming out by Christmas. I've been saying that for many months now. By Christmas. So that's if all goes to plan, hopefully. Also, later today, I'll be uploading another video on my vlog channel, Lucy Talks. I'll be talking about how to stay motivated with your new fitness regime or nutrition protocol, even when you're not seeing results as quickly as you would like to. So today we're going to be talking about different types of front closures for corsets. So you can see here, I got my tiny Busk earrings. They're cast in pewter. It was Birdie, Silent Songbird, who made these for me because she's a jeweler on her free time. So thank you so much for these, Birdie. They're gorgeous, and let's get started. So the first closure that I want to talk about are the hooks and eyes. So these are obviously the cheapest type. Hooks on that side, eyes on the other. This is not a real corset. This is a faja. You can see how stretchy it is, and I don't wear it because it's rubber and it gives me heat rash. So you will pretty much never see these in a genuine off-the-rack corset or a couture corset for that matter. If you are seeing a garment being sold as a waist-training corset that has hook and eyes, I would not trust it personally. Now, if you're making your own corset and you don't have the money to buy a bust closure, you can't buy anything online, hook and eye tape is readily available in most sewing and stores, so it is easy to access. I've seen it done before in homemade corsets, quite recently actually, and it was supported by steel bones on both sides, and it still had lacing in the back. So you unlace it so that it's very loose. You do up all the hooks and eyes completely so that there's not pressure on one of these hooks and eyes more than the other one, and then you lace up the back of the corset to the reduction that you want. But the problem with these is that these are little metal hooks, but they can bend and warp over time if they have any sort of uneven pressure on them. If one breaks, there are a few others that are surrounding it that might pick up the slack, but those would be under higher risk of breaking as well. But the tape itself would be inexpensive to replace. But for me personally, overwhelmingly, I prefer a busk. Another con to this is that it can take a very long time to do up and undo. And now for the front busk, like my earrings, not all corsets have to have a busk. Corsets, by definition, for me anyway, must have lacing somewhere in it. But this is what a busk looks like. You'll be familiar with it. So you have the loops on this side, and on this side I've seen them described as knobs or pins or pegs. It all means the same thing. Most often you see it as knobs. And I've talked about busks at length before in some of my other videos, which I'll link down in the description below. But a couple things that I'll mention: it's supported by a steel bone on both sides. It's strong. It supports the abdomen, helps keep it flat. It can fasten and unfasten within seconds, so it's much faster than the hook and eye that I just showed you. Comes in different colors, so that was the typical silver. It also comes in black. I also got a gold one from corsetmaking.com. One of my friends, Nikki, she can make busks in pretty much any color you can possibly think of, so she has an Etsy shop. I'll link it down below as well. So there's a reason why busks have existed in corsets for such a long time, because they work and they are very convenient. One con about this though is that if a busk breaks, and usually it's like a knob popping out because it's basically like a rivet, you can try to replace it with another rivet or a screw, but more often than not you will have to replace the entire busk. And this is a specialty item. You usually only see these in corsets, so most of the time it has to be special ordered. But if you're interested, I have a video on how to repair a busk that had a pin that popped out, and I also have a video on how to completely remove a busk and replace it with just a front lacing panel. So I'll put those videos linked down below as well. And speaking of front lacing corsets, I have both made and purchased a couple of front lacing corsets in the past. If you do not have access to a busk and you don't want to make a closed front corset, which I will talk about in a second, front lacing is usually the next option. So in a previous Fast Foundation video, I talked about why wearing your corset backwards so that the busk is in the back and the lacing's in the front is not usually a good idea to do because the way that a corset is drafted, the panels are individually designed to contour over a different part of your back or abdomen. So it's going to mess up your posture in that way. But a corset that is deliberately front lacing it's not going to be like just a backwards corset. It will have the front panels that are still supporting the abdomen. The back panel should still be curving to your lumbar spine. It's just that it has lacing in the front instead of a busk. A corset that's deliberately front lacing will be good for people who have arm weakness or inflexible shoulders. If you have arthritis in your shoulder, this is one option for you. Or if you're just not very coordinated, trying to fiddle with your laces behind your back, then a front lacing corset might work for you. But a corset that only has a front lacing system and is closed in the back, you will need to loosen it a lot so that you can shimmy into it. Either pull it down over your head or step into it and pull it up from your feet. But I would not personally recommend a high reduction or tight lacing corset that is closed in the back and only laced in the front. Personally speaking, from experience, one of my first waist training corsets was designed that way. And although, it was fine in terms of its engineering, it did cause some discomfort around my floating ribs for a while. And I think it was just the angle that the corset was wrapping itself around the back of my ribs. So I would just recommend, if you are doing tight lacing or waist training, that you opt for a back lacing corset. It can have lacing in the front and back, but just make sure that it has some back lacing in it. Now on to zippered corsets. Now I fully admit that some of my favorite waist training corsets have zippers, like my contour corset. If a corset maker is using a front zip, it should have metal teeth, it should be made to military specification, and it should be flanked by steel bones. I've had some really good backpacks and duffel bags in the past that, they might be carrying like 20, sometimes 50 pounds of like luggage in there. And literally the stitching around the zipper failed before the teeth actually did. That's when you know you have a good quality zipper. Another nice thing about zippers in corsets is that they can be more discreet under clothing compared to the bumps you see that the busk causes. But those bustiers that you see in Halloween shops around this time that have the nylon coiled zippers in different colors, and usually it's around the side, not the front, and no supporting steel bones so that like the fabric ripples around them. That causes uneven pressure on different parts of the teeth, and you can expect those zippers to fail if you lace them too tight. But even if you use the best quality, most expensive zippers with the metal teeth, like with any other garment, if the zipper were to break, you will likely have to replace the entire zipper. You won't be able to replace just that one, little tooth. And now on to something a little bit more unique and decorative and specialty, swing hook closures. So this is really neat. I saw this many years ago. I think I first saw it used in a corset by Lucy of Wasted Creations, and these swing hooks were originally used and designed for, I believe, jewelry boxes. But she wrote an article for Foundations Revealed on how to insert these yourself, and you have to, you couldn't source the bones with the holes drilled in them at the time. You had to do that yourself. So I'll link her article down in the description below if you want to check that out. But there are many corset supply shops that sell swing hooks and the pre-drilled bones these days, and more and more off-the-rack corset companies are starting to catch on to this trend, so you're seeing them ready-made in corsets already. But I wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to Lucy of Wasted Creations because she was the person who really introduced this style to me and many others. But I will say that this is more for a decorative corset. It will not hide well under clothing. It's very high profile. And another thing that I should say is, if you have a corset that is a little bit of moderate to high reduction in the waist, it's best to put a swing hook right at the waistline where there's the most tension, because if you don't, the fabric in the center front will begin to gape, and even the bones in the center front, if they're not very strong, might begin to bow a little bit if it's not very high quality. So keep that in mind. If at all possible, if you're making a corset or if you're choosing a corset that has swing hooks, make sure that there is a swing hook right at the waistline. And lastly, really quickly, a closed front corset. So it's just stitched completely closed in the front and laced in the back. So similarly to a front lace corset, you will have to shimmy into the corset, either pull it down over your head or pull it up from your feet. You have to unlace it very open in the back so that you have enough space to do that. It does take some extra time to lace it up and unlace it. So if you have anxiety or claustrophobia issues, I might not recommend this style of corset for you because it does take some time to get out of it. But I will say that a closed front corset is the smoothest under clothing if you like to stealth your corset underneath your clothes and you don't like the bumps that a busk might make. So these are the most common front closures and I guess non-closures. Leave me a comment down below telling me what is your favorite closure for a corset. And if you have tried any other corsets with a different or a more unique closure that hasn't been mentioned here, feel free to leave a comment down below and let us know. So I will see you all next week for another video. Bye.